Hello and welcome back to another Rush Duel Links video. Today we've just had an update to Duel Links which has given us the advance notice of the new box, special bundle and skill inbound. Now we did already know quite a lot of this from data mining, but now we can see them all announced, as well as our data miners have been hard at work trying to get more information out of this update. But first things first, the new Rush mini box, Flash of Shining Flare. So this is actually really interesting because the face card of the box is Elemental Hero Shining Flare Wingman. So this card is awkward, right? It's not easy to summon because we do need to make a fusion monster first and then fuse into this, which is Flame Wingman, and then into Elemental Hero Sparkman, which will confirm Sparkman. But this card is actually not awful, it's just summoning it as a pain. So this card can get really, really big, and then it has that Flame Wingman burn effect to just OTK your opponent out of nowhere, and is actually really strong and does see play in the OCG version of the deck. The only issue is, in the OCG version of the game, we use Elemental Hero Prisma to turn itself into Flame Wingman, so we don't have to jump through all these hoops. So I don't know how good this is going to be in Duel Links, but there is some potential for it. And anything that could just kill your opponent in one go is always going to be worth at least experimenting with. I don't know if we'd see more than like one copy in a deck, but it's okay. And again, when we do eventually get Prisma in the future, this card will actually be really, really good. Then we have some of the cards we already knew about. We got Home Run Hitter. This is the new yugioh boss, which is a bit weak, but it's fine. Its stats are okay. We have the Blue Fang Enhanced Burst Dragon, another card we didn't know we were getting, and this is an Overrush Rare, so it does look pretty good. Then we're getting another strange one. This is Chiron the Star Knight. So 2300 attack, not great for a level 7, but if your opponent has a monster on their field, you can send the top card of your deck to the graveyard, choose a face-up level 5 or higher Fiend-type monster on the field. This turn, it gains Piercing. So that is nice, because one of the major issues that a lot of the Fiend decks, especially Royal Rebels, have always had, is they're not very good at dealing with Piercing, which is why when they get progressive in the future, that really, really helps them. But this card is kind of weak. I don't really know where we would fit this. Overall, I don't see Chiron seeing any play. I would be happy to be wrong, but maybe there's something here, but just a 23 that gives out Piercing, not really going to be worth it. The best thing you could probably do with this is get out a Heavy Metal, pop your opponent's big guy, make Heavy Metal huge, then use Chiron to give it Piercing. But again, that's so many hoops to jump through, and I don't think it's really worth it. Then we have a very modern hero fusion, Elemental Hero Voltic Wingman. So this is made using Sparkman and Avian, and this is a level 5 monster. That's very important because, as we'll see with his own effect, he can only fusion summon level 6 to 8, so you can't use a Voltic to go into Voltic. But during the main phase that you special summon this card, you can fusion summon a level 6 to 8 warrior type monster that can only be fusion summoned by shuffling monsters from your graveyard into the deck as material. So this is kind of the Elemental Hero clause, which is they're all warriors, and they all have a line on them saying that it must be fusion summoned. So you can see this one even says that itself. So this way you can only use this to summon out heroes. This card is okay, because you could set up some pretty interesting stuff with this. For example, you could go into a Flame Wingman earlier in the game, and then use this to make Shining Flare Wingman, because Shining Flare is a level 8. So this is going to be probably the best way to get Shining Flare out, but it does mean going into a Flame Wingman earlier in the game, which typically you're going to want to be making bursts, so I'm not really sure how exactly this is going to play out, but there might be something here. But Voltic is a very interesting addition to the game. Then we've got Dododo Second, another card that we thought we were going to get. And then we get to another weird card, Perion the Star Knight. So level 8, 2500 attack, actually decent stats this time. Send the top card of your deck to the graveyard, choose one face-up monster on your field, and one face-up monster on your opponent's field. Increase those monsters' levels by 2, and they gain 500 attack until the end of this turn. So it increases the levels, which there aren't a lot of reasons to increase levels. Like, for the most part right now, it's going to be to, like, dodge some specific traps that say you can only work on like level 8 or lower or 9 or lower. So I'm not super sure what we're going to be doing with this. It's another weird one. I think both of these Star Knights are interesting additions. Again, I'd really like there to be something very obvious that you could do with these, but right now I'm just not seeing it. And then there's the Jointex Stegosaurus that we already knew we were getting. But if we scroll down, we can see that we have the entire rest of the box also announced here. So what else are we getting? We are going to be getting Goblin Digging Captain. So this is going to be along with the Warrior Returning Alive skill that we have just had leaked as well. So if you have the War Returning Alive or Trap Hole in your graveyard, send the top card of it to the graveyard. One face monster on your opponent's field loses attack equal to the number of War Returning Alive and or Trap Hole in your graveyard times 1000. So that's not bad. I don't think it's good enough on its own. There is another Trap Hole support card called Trap Mole that we didn't get here, which would probably make this at least potentially have something you could do with it, but overall, it's a nice addition. It's not going to do anything crazy. Then there's Phoenix Dragoon. This card's actually pretty cool. So if you have 10 or more cards in your deck, send one monster from your hand to the graveyard. It's annoying that you have to have 10 or more, but this is to stop like looping stuff and not decking yourself out, as well as you have to send a specific monster. So would be better if we could send any card. But then we gain 300 life points, and then if we have a level 8 monster on our graveyard, we can draw one card. So the intention, I believe, behind this is you're supposed to play it with the baseball stuff in the Yugioh deck, because all of Yugioh's boss monsters are level 8. Also, the skill in that deck does allow you to play Fire Warriors and Dragons, and Phoenix Dragoon is a dragon. Now, you specifically need level 8, so you could theoretically put this in any deck that has level 8s. So there are a few different options there, but I think that's the intended point for this card. Then we have the Striping Wyvern. We knew we were getting this card. It's still really, really strong. We're getting a Lightning Braver reprint. This, I believe, was only part of Selection Box 2. So now we actually have it outside of that. Then we get Elemental Circulation, and this card is also really, really good. This sees a lot of play in the OCG version of Heroes. But we can reveal one level 6 or 7 Warrior-type fusion monster in your extra deck, send one Warrior-type monster that is mentioned on it from your hand to the graveyard. Then we draw 3 cards, then we send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard. So we activate this card, we discard a card, we draw 3 cards, then we discard 1 more card. So we end up breaking even. So we don't plus off this or anything, but this will fill up our graveyard. This will help us dig through the deck. This card is really, really good for the deck. The only issue is our spell trap space is quite tight in Duel Links, so I'm not sure if this is going to fit in very nicely. Because if you think about it, we're going to want like 3 copies of Fusion. Again, unless we're using specifically the hero skill, which we can get away with only using the 1 copy. Maybe that's going to be like mandatory for this to work. The Circulation is a really, really strong card and should not be underestimated. Then we've got Fusion Cancel, and this is another really interesting trap card, really, really powerful. So when a monster is destroyed by battle, choose 1 face-up fusion monster on the field, return it to the owner's extra deck. Then the owner of the chosen monster can special summon the monsters listed on that card as materials from their graveyard face-up to the field. So this is an interesting one because there is a decent amount you can do with this, but sometimes I think this is going to be a bit of an awkward card to use. So for example, you could use this on your opponent's Eternal Galactic Oblivion. And because it's made using stuff that isn't specifically mentioned, because you don't get all of those monsters back. But at this point, the Eternal Galactic Oblivion has already hit you, which means you're probably already dead, so it's going to be too late to use Fusion Cancel. The other thing is, Fusion Cancel can be used on your own attack, so you summon out your own Fusion monster, attack into your opponent's guy, activate Fusion Cancel, split it into more monsters, and attack, 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 for example. But there isn't really a good deck to make use of this right now. If we think about the current meta, Light Galaxy have a lot of modular fusions, so they're not going to have really good cards to bring back with this. If we think about Dark Galaxy, they tend to swarm the board with 3 monsters, so they're not really going to have room to defusion into an extra, like, couple of attacks. And if we think about Spellcasters, well, once again, their fusions are modular, right? They don't always use the same material, which means it won't bring back everything, so it's a little bit awkward. So I think the best way to use Fusion Cancel is probably going to be in Heroes. You could try and make a Shining Flare Wingman, again, keeping your material in Graveyard, because if you use something like Voltic, you're going to put them back into your deck. Then attack over and burn them, then defuse into a regular Flame Wingman, attack over something else and burn again. Maybe that would be the best way to use this. But it is a little bit awkward, but again, you can just use this defensively to get rid of your opponent's fusions, but it's after they've already landed an attack, so it might be a bit too late. Then we have Thunder Giant, which is a decent card, made using Sparkman and Clayman, so again, it's going to confirm Clayman. But we have to send a card from our hand to the graveyard, which is not the best, and you can only pop a monster with a lower original attack than this card's current attack, but we don't have many ways to boost this card's attack right now. Now, we don't have Skyscraper to boost the attack of Thunder Giant, which will let it pop monsters a lot easier, and because it specifically targets the opponent's original attack, that means if we use the skill Hero Rush Rising to reduce their attack, that is not going to matter for Thunder Giant. Thunder Giant only cares about their original attack and Thunder Giant's current attack, so it's a little bit awkward, but could potentially be something. Then there's Mudball Man, probably just not going to see any play. Mudball Man's not very good, unfortunately. Same with Mariner. Again, never really saw any play. I'm not really sure if you can do a lot with this. Being able to attack directly is nice, but you don't really want to be playing Bubble Man a lot of the time. Then we get Sparkman. So this is now going to be one of the best level 4 vanillas, because this is basically a Pale Rider or a Transcend Lineac, but with defense points, and it's a warrior, which generally can be a bit of a better type. So again, absolutely fantastic card. We get Clayman, which now has a 2000 defense. This is actually really funny because we haven't even got the legend monsters that have 2000 defense yet. So for example, Mystical Elf is a legend monster. We don't have that. We now have a card that is the same as Mystical Elf, except it's not a legend. So interesting to see that. Then there's SSD Drake. We did expect we were going to get this. Booster Wyvern we knew we were going to get. DBF Redrilda, we did expect this as well. Tag Up Magic Sacrifice Force, again, we did expect this. We knew we were getting Burst Fusion and Boost Fusion. Then we get Gargaga Outfielder, again, we were expecting this. Fairy Dragon is an interesting inclusion. Then we get Dragon Bird. Again, none of these are really that interesting. They're just kind of the filler normals, right? We got Featherous Spirit Stadium, we knew we were going to get this. Nutrient Zero, again, not super useful, but maybe people try and do some stall stuff with this. Then there's Tribute Doll, which is interesting, kind of. It's not actually that exciting. There's not really much you can do with this. So you send a monster from your field to the graveyard, special summon a level 7 monster from your hand face up to your field, but it cannot attack this turn. And because we have to use the spell card, it's like we're getting rid of 2 cards to summon out a boss anyway. So again, there's nothing particularly interesting. Then we get some reprints, so nothing too crazy in there. But that is not all, because we're also getting some bundles. The first bundle we're getting is Miracle Fusion. So we're going to have a singular copy of Miracle Fusion. Miracle Fusion in Rush does not banish the material because there is no banish zone in Rush. So instead, it places them on the bottom of the owner's deck and then just gets out the fusion monster like normal. This is a really good card, but the only one copy, I don't know if this is going to boost heroes enough. It's still really strong, and it's still a really good card. That's why we're only getting the one copy of it. But I'm not sure if it's going to be enough to boost heroes to like a tier 1 status deck. My gut reaction is that this is going to make heroes like a solid tier 3 deck, and that's going to be decent, but nothing like super crazy. The other bundle we're getting is the Red Boot Enhanced Boost Dragon, and this is going to be the key boss monster of the Red Boot deck. Only having one copy of this is going to suck, and as we can see here, it's going to be immediately limit 1, which is going to take out that Pot of Greed or Compulse from the deck as well. But this is definitely a ridiculously strong boss monster, and it does make sense that it is limit 1. But that's not all, because the data miners have been very hard at work, and I do have a few more cards to show you. So first things first, Selection Box Volume 3, and I don't like selection boxes. Selection boxes are generally very predatory, they're very expensive, they're generally very frustrating because they only put a handful of new cards in it, but you need to invest so many gems to get them, and they've put some really good ones in here. So we'll start off with the worst and we'll go from there. The first one is 100 Divine Dragon. So this is a level 7 2500 attack monster. If you would normal draw until you have 5 cards in your hand during your draw phase, normal draw until you have 6 cards instead. So this effect is, I mean, it's nice having that extra card. A lot of the time this card doesn't survive long enough to get use of that. I don't think this card is particularly good, and I don't think this is going to take a spot in the deck, especially a boss monster spot. I can't really think of a good deck you'd want to play this in either, so this is kind of going the very mid, probably won't play it kind of pile. But the next card, Cyber Processor, very strong card. So originally when Cyber Dragon came out in OCG, it was performing okay. It wasn't really doing anything crazy. Cyber Processor came out. This was the consistency tool that really allowed it to be a really powerful meta contender. So if you have a face-up machine type monster on your field, you can special summon this card from your hand face up to your field. Send one other card from your field to the graveyard. So that's any other card. So it could be a face-down spell trap, or it could be for example, a Cyber Dragon. This card's name becomes Cyber Dragon this turn. Then you can special summon a Cyber Dragon from your graveyard. So you could use this to send a Cyber Dragon you already have, bring back the same Cyber Dragon, and this guy's name will just become Cyber Dragon. Or you can summon this, get rid of like a back row you don't need, bring back a Cyber Dragon, this card's name also becomes Cyber Dragon, then you can fuse them into a Cyber Rush or a Cyber Twin. So really powerful card. There are a few other Cyber cards we're kind of waiting to get our hands on to make the deck really strong, but this card is a really big buff to the deck, and Cyber Dragon could be really scary going forward. And then we have the big like selection box bait card, and that is Amazing Dealer. This card is very generic. You can play this in just about anything as long as the skill doesn't lock you. But if you have 3 or less monsters in your graveyard, so for the most part this is going to be very early on, or if you have ways to shuffle a load of stuff back, pay 300 life points. Send 3 cards from your hand to the graveyard, then draw 3 cards. So this is really good consistency, as well as setting up your graveyard. This card might not seem like a lot, but this card saw a ridiculous amount of play in like every single deck in OCG for a very long time. Now, How good is this going to be in Duel Links? It's kind of a bit up in the air, right? The meta is very different. We have 30 card decks. We have skills that do kind of hamper things or make things a lot stronger. So it'll be interesting to see what this card can actually do. But just know this card was very, very strong in OCG, saw a ton of play, and I expect people to be experimenting with this quite a lot in Duel Links. But that is not all, because we do have these 3 that were data mined from an image, but Brad has been doing his own data mining and has found a few more cards. More specifically, we're getting a Royal Rebels Heavy Metal Overrush Rare, which is really cool, but also Curse of the Rising Light, and this card is insane. So this is a card that sees play right now on OCG. This is typically a side deck card, but it's a really, really good side deck card. And the last time we said this was like Ghost Cyclone and Essel. They were the 2 side deck cards before. And both of those cards have seen ridiculous amounts of play from when they came out and even seeing some play now. So this card potentially could be insane. But if your opponent has 1 or less cards in their hand, we can change 1 monster on your opponent's field to face up attack position or face down defense position. Okay, so this is like block attack or stop defense. Then if your opponent activated a trap this turn, or if this turn is the first turn of the player going second, so it's got that Essel clause, each player draws 2 cards. So you could activate this on turn 2, flip one of your opponent's face down defense position monsters face up, draw 2 cards, which is really, really strong. I mean, if we think about this, you could play Spellcasters, for example. You could activate your skill, send Witch to graveyard, summon out Cat. Cat brings back Witch, fuse into Charmy. You could then flip one of your opponent's face down defense position monsters face up and give it self-piercing. Activate Curse of Rising Light, flip another monster face up, draw 2 cards. So just from the skill, we've +1. From Curse of the Rising Light, we've +1. And we've also got our opponent's entire board ready to receive a ton of damage, because 2 of them are now in attack position, and 1 of them is going to get pierced over. So now we use the rest of our massive hand to build a really good board, then we just attack in and do a ridiculous amount of damage, and maybe even OTK our opponent. So this card can be really, really good, but again, it's going to be a lot better if you just have it going second on that very first turn of the game. Otherwise, it's going to be not as useful, but still really strong. Being able to change a monster that has a lot of attack into defense and attack over it is really good. And being able to change a defense position monster to attack position to get at your opponent's life points is also really, really good. The only thing that's really going to hold this card back is that your opponent has to have 1 or less card in their hand, so people might start playing around this. So there is some stuff you can do to interact with this, but other than that, very, very strong. But what are my conclusions after looking at all of these cards? Well, Flash of the Shining Flare is an interesting box. I would say you probably aren't going to be playing more than 1 Shining Flare, maybe 2, but I would expect this to be a 1 of. Blue Fang Enhanced, again, is a 1 or 2 of. I wouldn't expect you to need 3 copies of this. Home Run Hitter is probably a 3 of if you're trying to play this deck. I think this card isn't that great, but again, if you're playing the baseball deck, it's going to be very mandatory. I'm still not sure what we're doing with Chiron the Star Knight, so not... I want to do some building with this. I want to test with it a bit before I come to any conclusions, but my initial impressions, I don't think this is going to be very good, and that is going to extend over to Perian as well. I think the hero stuff, this stuff is all probably going to be like 3 ofs, and potentially even fusion cancel. These are going to be like the chase cards. And then for like a lot of the other SRs, it's going to depend on the deck you're playing, right? If we're playing, for example, the high-tech dragon stuff, you're probably going to want the striking wyverns. If you're looking to play joint tech, you're going to want 3 copies of Stegocelos, right? And then everything else is just rares. So my first initial impression is, if you're looking to play baseball, you're probably going to want to go through this box 3 times. If you're looking to play just about anything else, you could probably get away with only 2 runs, and in some cases, maybe only 1 run if you want to be super, super budget with it. I think the winner of this box is probably... I mean, the strongest deck looks like it's going to be the high-tech dragons, then heroes. After that, like, there isn't really much left in it, right? So it's probably the baseball stuff and then the fiends. But heroes actually look like they might be somewhat playable. I don't want to say this is going to be like a top tier deck, but I think this could be like a tier 3 deck. I think it could easily hold its own. The high-tech dragon stuff looks like it's going to be really strong. Again, we won't know until we actually get our hands on it. We can actually experiment with the cards in this current meta, but they do feel like they're going to be really decent. Having Clayman and Sparkman as well is also really, really big, because now you could start seeing a lot of random decks just start playing Clayman as a high defense monster. We'll have to see how that plays out. As for the selection box, again, I really don't like selection boxes. I'm really not a fan of them. These cards specifically, again, 100 Divine is whatever. Cyber Processor, this could be really cool, but I'm kind of hoping we get a new Cyber Dragon skill. I guess we're waiting for a new hero skill as well, for that matter. Amazing Dealer, probably going to be really, really strong, and I would expect Curse of the Rising Light to be really good as well. But as always, a huge thank you to the data miners, huge shout out to Brad for making all of this possible, giving us all of this information. But thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you next time.